Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. Hope everyone has had enjoying the weather. It's been nice. I got out a little bit. Adam, you look like you haven't gotten out a bit. That's okay. I'm just kidding.
I haven't shaved.
You haven't shaved. Yeah, you look like you're a little haggard lately. What's going on?
Yeah,
right?
it's my tennis slash indoors when I'm home type of situation. Yeah, I did play tennis a little bit, but so you were this past weekend, so you were able to get out a little bit?
Got out a little bit, went to upstate New York with the family.
Oh, nice.
Well, when I say family, my wife and 2 kids, and found a little ranch up there, and that was, 1/3 capacity, and had our own little room, and everything was outdoors. Yeah, we did some horseback riding, and everything was pretty cool. Enjoyed it. It was just nice to get out a little bit.
Did the kids and the wife do the horseback, or did you do it?
Yeah, we all did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
okay.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Very nice.
I gotta say, it hurts. It's not fun. No, it's fun, but it's
Have you done it before?
I don't, not to this extent where you're in this place takes everybody out. They'll literally take 100 people out at one time, and they'll have 4 or 5 trainers kind of presiding over 10 people. My daughter, who's 7, got on her own horse, and I'm not talking about a pony. Like, I'm talking about like a horse, a real horse, right?
With help, obviously.
Yeah, they help her on, but they basically tell you, if you want the horse to stop, you pull up on the reins. If you want the horse to go right, up in the right, then you pull up to the left.
I would be so scared.
I was scared because I was watching my daughter, 10 feet ahead of me. And I'm like, what happens if this horse goes crazy? She's 7 years old,
I'm a baby. I would be like, because I don't do the, when we go to Disney or any amusement park, my wife's big on all the rides. And I'm like, anything that's got roller coasters, just, oh man, I just do not like them. What can I tell you? Yeah,
I do it for my daughter, but I'm getting old, man. I get off these roller coasters and I'm like, my head's in the clouds. I don't feel too good after it, but got to be strong for the daughter sometimes to get on them, right? All right, so we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get more into the Eric Wilson and Jordan Howard signings and what that means for this team, the Eagles going forward. We didn't really do that last podcast. We will this one. We've got some information on it. And then we're also going to continue our NFL draft preview by position with quarterbacks. That's something we got into, I believe, last week with Greg Cosell on Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell, that I encourage everybody to check out on our Inside the Birds platforms. But you and I want to talk about it a little bit more. I think you and I,
it's going to be different than what we talk about with Greg.
Right. And you and I more so probably understand and believe that the Eagles will really be looking at that position on day 3. And some people don't understand why. So we'll try to kind of continue that conversation to give a little bit more clarity on why the Eagles would be looking at a quarterback day 3. It's not because what people might think, like we're not into Jalen Hurts. It has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, really. It's just all about philosophy, right? And we'll get into that a little bit. So let's start with the recent news, Adam, with the Eagles. And it's funny, like we kind of called this to a T when the start of free agency. We said, look, the Eagles are going to sign free agents. Don't worry about the cap situation. They'll figure out a way to at least be underneath the cap to sign free agents, but they're going to be bargain hunters. I think that's the term you and I both use, bargain hunters. And every single free agent that they've signed has been kind of a 1-year bargain type of deal. The latest being Jordan Howard and, of course, Eric Wilson filling holes, right? Because that's what you got to do. We talked about at the start of free agency, what are the biggest Eagles holes? We said backup quarterback. We said big kind of thumper running back. We said veteran linebacker, bam, Eric Wilson. We said safety, bam, Anthony Harris. Still one left, though.
Still
cornerback. Yeah. Is that going to happen or what?
Hold on. Remember, this is something we're going to be talking about a lot, which I haven't really mentioned in a while, but free agency is about immediate needs. The draft is always and will never change. It's about the future. It is not about this season, folks. It is not. Period. End of story. You don't draft players for the season, then trade them. That doesn't work that way. You always draft for the future. And teams that do that the right way will win. Teams that don't understand that or trying to draft for need will lose.
Correct.
They'll get fired. That's
right.
Just the way it is.
Do you think corner will end up being like last year's wide receiver, where now Howie did make a move? It wasn't what everybody wanted, but the move to get Marquise Goodwin was a move to bring in a veteran with speed. Turned out he opted out. Okay, so you don't have that, and then they were kind of left.
They OD'd on speed, man.
Right. I guess what I'm asking is, do you think though that I still think they're going to have to sign a corner. They can't just rely on the draft here. Don't you think or trade for one?
They, as we first reported a couple weeks ago, they tried to sign or have been trying to sign TJ Carrier. They're just not there with the money. It's typical stuff.
Right.
Nothing earth shattering. He's a sub package player. If they sign him, that's the way he'll be used.
Right.
When you look at who's out there, there's some corners out there that would fit the system. It's a Mike Zimmer system. We'll get into that as we have since this new staff came in. We told you kind of what system we'd been hearing that they're going to run. Nothing's really changed there. It's just a matter of, can you get players to fit that system in free agency, which they've done, as you mentioned, and then in the draft. This is interesting. See, they had to do it for Jim Schwartz and his coaches for his system. And now you've got Jonathan Gannon, who's going to run his version of Mike Zimmer's system. So they've got to get certain type of players. It doesn't mean necessarily size, but particular style of play that will fit very well in that. That's not easy for their scouting staff, their college staff, because it's a new set of criteria. You know, these guys were typically the way it works around the league is when you have a new staff, you got to take notes because you got to know what they want when you're in their personnel meetings. So this is certainly a challenge for this new staff.
Yeah, and certainly they've done that, right, with the signings of Anthony Harris and the signing now of Eric Wilson.
Right.
That's a safety who understands the scheme. He played in it. He'll help implement it here. And same thing with Eric Wilson, who we'll get into in a minute. I just wonder, you know, you look at, they've actually signed, 7 free agents when all said and done, right? They signed the safety, they signed the linebacker, signed the running back. They did sign a cornerback. People forget his name was Shaquille Taylor. He played for the Colts a while ago. I don't know if he's seriously in the mix to be an outside corner or just a guy that Gannon liked, but they did sign him, right? And so that's 4. Oh, Flacco being 5.
Yep.
And then, of course, they re-signed Hassan Ridgeway. I mean, if you count that as
counts, absolutely counts.
So that's 6 guys. So for people who thought they're not going to, no, they actually wound up signing at least 6, and maybe there's more on the way there. But I do wonder how he's very good at
Andrew Adams.
That's right, the other safety too. So so there it is. I do wonder if corner is still on the way. It's just, you know, maybe through a trade. Like they added Goodwin last year through the trade, if I'm not mistaken, right, in the draft. So maybe they get. I was looking around to see if there are any corners, Adam, who are in year 3 of a rookie deal, and it doesn't look like they might get an extension with their team, kind of like the way Darby was with the Bills when they traded for him.
That's a good point.
That's how Jordan.
That was an August trade, right?
That's how Jordan Matthews was with the Eagles. He was 3 years into a 4-year deal. He wasn't going to get a max extension. For what he is, and so he became trade fodder to get Ronald Darby. So I guess we can poke around that in a future episode, but I just have a hard time believing they're going to go into 2021 season without signing, with only drafting corners here from here on out to fortify that position.
I mean, I could see if they don't get Carey, I could see them signing a veteran corner who would fit this scheme.
Right.
But they definitely need to draft 2 outside corners. That they need, as you and I have been talking about in recent shows. Gary Slay is now 30. They're kind of locked into 22 based on contract structure, but after that, they can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how he plays. Avonte Maddox must play slot corner. They don't have anyone right now to line up opposite Slay, not only this year. Again, the draft is about the future. It's not about this season.
Right.
So Craig James is there. One of 4 defensive players who have experience in the Zimmer scheme. So now I just don't know where they go here at corner.
I don't either. That's why I think Howie might get a little fancy on the trade market if he can to bring in a corner. We'll see.
By training camp. Yeah, by training camp.
Yes, I should emphasize that. Yeah. I mean that.
Doesn't have to be now, but yeah, by training camp for sure.
Exactly. Or maybe something happens during the draft. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see there. There's also one position, Adam. You're going to laugh, but it's true, that they need to address, because as much as we say you can't play a game today without signing a corner or something, there's one more position that I don't know how they would play a game today if they don't wind up signing someone or drafting someone. Do you know what position I'm thinking of?
Let me see.
Think outside the box.
Oh boy. I would say
he's a guy that if you sign him, he's guaranteed to make the 53.
Oh, a punter.
There you go.
Yeah, good setup. Yeah, you did a good job there with that one.
In your head. Yeah, but no, they don't have a punter right now.
Yeah, they don't. And I mean, Thomas Morstead's out there. And there's some
I thought he
decent.
retired though. Was he cut or did he?
No, Morstead was cut.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He didn't.
Because he was a high paid.
Yeah, in fact, that was a shocker. Like in free agency, as we said, there were not a lot of surprises. Most were almost all guys that teams didn't want. It would, despite all the rumors out there, the teams would just there'd be a bloodletting. It didn't happen.
Right.
But the Saints were the one team. I'd say two or three in total. Were cutting guys they probably didn't want to cut. The Saints dropping Morstead. I mean, you can argue he's not the same guy, but he's not bad. I was stunned that. They cut some players, the Saints, that they probably didn't want to cut. When you look at punters that are out there, Chris Jones, formerly of the Cowboys, lefty punter, had some injuries. Yep. Bojorquez, the punter who was restricted free agent, was not tendered. He was with the Bills.
Sure.
So those guys are out there. Morstead's the proven veteran, so we'll see what happens. But the Eagles are not spending any money on a punter, man. They're just not doing that.
Maybe our man down home, Donnie Jones, wants to come back out of retirement.
Another time to come out of retirement.
There you go. All right, let's get in a little bit to the recent acquisitions. We'll start off with Jordan Howard. First, I want to remind everyone to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code ITB, and you'll turn $1 into $100 in free bets if the basketball team of your choice hits a 3. That's all you got to do. Use promo code ITB, and you turn $1 into $100 in free bets if a basketball team of your choice hits a 3 using the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. All right, let's talk first about Jordan Howard, who is back for the third time here. Do you count this? I mean, I guess they signed him. Yeah, he was practice squad, but then he was released after it, right? Like you free agent. So he's
I don't remember now, but it's either his contract expired as a practice squad player,
right?
Which means he's not released, it just expires.
That's true.
They signed him to the he signed to the offseason roster. Listen,
right.
All right, so let's talk about Jordan Howard. Number one, he's absolutely not guaranteed to make the team. His role will be the same as it always has been.
Right.
It's not a big deal. It's a 1-year veteran minimum deal. I don't know the exact money, but this is a guy that they know. They needed a power back. This is something that we thought they were going to do. Sign it back with size. As I understand it, at the start of free agency, he was on their list to consider bringing back. They never dismissed the idea of bringing him back. It's just a matter of you don't want to jump into the pool the first week of free agency, especially for a backup player.
Right.
Because you're going to, if they're signing week 1, more than likely you're going to be paying them more than you probably would like to. So he's back. As we've been telling you now for 9 months, Boston Scott absolutely positively is not a number 2 NFL back. We learned that. He's a smaller back. He's used as a changeup. If he's used the right way, he can be very effective.
Yes.
If you think he's going to be your number 2 back and get 8 to 10 carries, you're sadly mistaken. It's just not going to work. It won't happen. No way, no how. Elijah Holyfield, they clearly don't believe in the guy. They had every opportunity.
Right? Why was he on the team the entire year? And then they still bring in Jordan Howard at the end of the year onto the practice squad, and then they never played him. And if I'm not mistaken, he's still on the. Did they sign him to another futures?
He's back. Yeah, he's back. Yeah, him and Killins are back. Yeah.
At this point, he's got to be back just to be a camp body, because you had all the reason in the world to try to get him on the field at times last year, and you didn't. And then you went and got Jordan Howard, who, by the way, was aaverageing like 1.5 yards per carry when you got him. I mean, that doesn't speak pretty well for Elijah Holyfield.
Yeah. So let's go back to Jordan Howard. So what happened with Jordan Howard, I'm told, in Miami is that Chan Gailey, who had wound up resigning after the season was over, it's really bizarre. He benched him, and it wasn't like he benched him in November. He benched him like at weeks 1 or week 2. He relegated him to only short yardage. That's why his yards per carry was so low.
Right.
He did not fit a spread. Like Chan Gailey runs a pure spread.
Yep.
It didn't work. This is a clear disconnect between the Dolphins front office and the coaches, particularly Chan Gailey. I mean, to bench a guy on a 3-year, $15 million contract, over $5 million the first year, really?
Yeah. I mean, between him and Van Noy, they really gave out money for nothing.
Yeah, Van Noy, 15.5 on year 1. Are you out of your mind?
Who was the guy who was? You knew things were bad for Jordan Howard, right? When I can't remember the guy's name from Miami. He was their lead ball carrier by October, and
Miles Gaskin.
Yeah, but there was somebody else. Gaskin got hurt.
Oh, Salved Ahmed.
Yes, Ahmed. Right. It was a Salved. Something.
Salvon, Salvo, without looking at it, Salvon.
Yeah, like I
John
usually
Hanson loves
know,
the way I say that.
right? You and I
Ahmed.
usually know these guys, right? You and I usually know who the second and third string running
Yeah.
backs are for
Well, for
most.
fantasy, I have to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when this guy was starting to get 15 carries, I'm like, who in the
Who is
world
this guy?
is
Right. I never heard
this?
of him. I'll admit it. Yeah, I admit it. Totally admit it. I played ignorance. I didn't know who he was. But I mean, it's funny. I give Chan Gailey credit for this. Man, he got a ton out of Myles Gaskin.
Sure.
And they still need a running back, by the way. And he did well with Ahmed. So, yeah.
All right. So anyway, Jordan Howard comes back. I agree with you. The thing I love about these 1-year veteran signings is that it should not, and I imagine it will not, preclude the Eagles from drafting a guy that they think can do the exact same thing. And if he's younger and
or anything,
better,
no, just anything,
or anywhere, yeah, but sure, any kind of running back,
yeah.
And if he doesn't make the team, he doesn't make the team,
yep.
Which is, it's amazing how far we've come since, what was it, 2 years ago when they traded for him, and
19.
Man, you had to talk some people off the ledge when the Eagles got him for a 6th-round pick, because at the time he was like 3rd on the league's rushing list over the last 3 years with like Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley, and then it was him. And, you know, a lot of people were like, oh my God, the Eagles just got one of the best running backs in the league. And I remember you and I were like, calm down. He's actually not what the numbers say. He's limited in how he's used and will be used in the Doug Peterson offense. And I think now people are finally seeing that he is not a Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott type of running back.
No, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, he did a great job in that role a couple years ago. It was that Green Bay game. He was very important in that game.
Oh, yeah, the game that Jeffrey Lurie apparently didn't like because they won by running the ball.
Because they ran it too much.
Gotta love covering the Eagles, by the way. What's that?
Sorry?
You just have to love covering the Eagles and all the interesting side subplots that they offer, you know?
Whose story was that? A Jeff McClain story? I don't even remember. I'm gonna give credit to it.
It might have been Jeff McClain. Yeah.
And I'm not laughing.
I'm not saying I doubt it. I just think that's.
I don't doubt it at all. The way
because
look, we had said a couple years ago, we knew for a fact that Jeffrey, after every game, would meet with Doug Peterson to go over the play sheet. He'd have Eagle Source told me he would have maybe a 1 or 2 pieces of paper, and they would go over some of the calls and questions. It's based on analytics,
right?
But look, Jordan Howard fits a role as a back with size. As Geoff said, it doesn't preclude them from drafting any type of running back in any round. Now, when I say any round, it won't be in the first,
right?
But 2nd round, I doubt it.
Yeah, I would doubt it too.
I doubted it last year, and I know, we talked about sort of who they liked. We said in our first post-draft show was going to be Chin had they not drafted Hurts.
Right.
We also heard that Dobbins was very high on him.
Yeah. And Dobbins had a really nice rookie year, by the way.
He did. He was good. He's explosive.
Perfect for that offense.
He should be their lead back with the Gus Bus backing him up, Gus Edwards in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I've learned, and I'm a little bit more open to this, is just someone who is a sort of an observer of how teams use rotations. Although I think sometimes that the Packers could get too conservative with Aaron Jones. The rotation they had with he and Jamal Williams really worked last season.
Mm-hmm.
And Dillon, who now will back up Jones, and they're going to have a 1-2 punch. Jamal Williams was not expected to be re-signed, and he didn't. He went to Detroit. It worked. I got to say, I give Matt LaFleur credit. It can work in a 2-man backfield. And quite frankly, because Sanders did not build on his first year. I know his average per carry was way up there, but you can't build your running back career with 4 big runs. It's what you do game to game. Sanders just got to be better. We talk about the drop passes, ball security. We know explosive he is talented, but he's got to be more consistent from game to game, and that will really help. And look, we also know the coaching was not very good last season.
No, coaching wasn't very good. They were down in a lot of games, and also, in fairness to Miles, and I don't want to sound like a Miles homer because everything you said was correct about him needing to improve. But I mean, there were a couple of plays there where he was wide open. That one against the Bengals, that Carson says over his head. But I mean, 4 or 5 plays where you're wide open and the ball isn't put in your hands can make a difference in what your season looks like. That's 80 to 150 to 200 yards difference depending on what happens after you get the ball in your hands.
Yes. The one other thing is, I know drops are subjective. I get it, but even when the ball's at your ankles, catch the football. Secure it first, then run. He had too many of those where the ball was low. I get it. You know, you mentioned Wentz was off, but you got to catch those. That's your job, and he'll be better. I mean, we know how hard he works and how much he cares, but you know what? That's great, but you got to get the job done when the game is started.
Definitely. All right, Adam, last week on our pod, I told you twice about two of my great feats in athletics. One was winning a high school intramural basketball championship, draining 2 free throws at no time left on the clock.
It's awesome.
And then, of course, my first fantasy football championship. I want to hear about your best triumph from the young Caplan days, and nothing to do with being chased around by Abdul the Butcher. That didn't sound like a triumph.
Oh God, wait to hear the second one. That will be after the draft.
Oh yeah.
Oh my, what? I'm trying to think. What was my best? You know what? Okay, mine would be okay. This is a crazy story. I was at Penn Charter. Actually, you made me think about this. I was at Penn Charter, early '80s. I was in 9th grade. 99.9% of the people do not know that Mark Gubicza. You know, Mark Gubicza was
of course, the Kansas City Royals pitcher.
Yep. He went to school with me. His father, Mark and I have never met. We've only talked over Twitter. Mark's father, Tony, was he was an assistant coach for a 9th grade basketball team, and I was a 6th man. I had one of the most luckiest. They didn't have 3-pointers back then. I must have hit like 6 or 7 bombs in a row. In his face? In Mark Gubicza's face? No. But Mr. Gubicza. Oh, okay. I think his name was Tony. Was such a positive guy. He said, keep shooting. And I did. And I must have hit 5 or 6 deep shots, like really deep. You were in the zone. Yeah. And Mark doesn't even know this. He and I talked a little bit through private message, but he doesn't know that his dad coached me. Yeah. Mr. Rogers was our, Jack Rogers, as they called him. For those of you, 5 of you who know Penn Charter, but that's where Matt Ryan went. Mike McGlinchey, Gubicza did. Oh, the Goldbergs, the guy I've never watched that show. I've only seen bits and pieces. Yeah, that guy, the creator of the Goldbergs, went there. So yeah. Sure. All right. Well, that's 6 through 9. That's one of your great athletic triumphs, hitting a bunch. Just remember the zone, hitting a bunch of threes. That's it. Just the confidence, though. I remember again. This is 35 years ago, or whatever. I just remember feeling like on top of the mountain because I wasn't such a very good athlete, but just as you were talking about your intermediate, like the pressure that you were under to hit those free throws. Hey, it's intense. Did you think about it? Oh man, I think my stomach was in knots that moment. The 2 times that I threw the ball at the rim for the free throw, I had no idea where it was going. It wasn't like one of those things where I thought the net was an ocean. But the one thing I didn't do was waste time. I just took the ball. Like I kind of have a routine, bounce twice, bend the knee, shoot. That's what I did. When you play golf. Yeah. That's been a while. But go ahead. Right. But do you have the same issue I do? The reason why I suck at golf is I overthink, particularly on the drive. I get up there. Some people at ball dress, they just go and whack it. Yeah. I got to wait 30 seconds. And I annoy people so badly. They get on me. Like, what is You're wrong? Like Sergio? Are you like Sergio? You got all those weird... like the gyrations. I can't stand golf. No, I'm a little bit... that's not my issue. Like, when I drive, I'm a little bit of a grip it and rip it guy, and I can play my hook and slice a little bit. Good for you. My second and third shot always sucks. I mean, if I have a rule when I play golf. If I hit 2 good shots in a row, it almost gets the third one. It's just not going to happen. I haven't hit 3 good shots in a row in maybe 7 years. So maybe even longer. So yeah. I'm just the only thing I'm good at golf, and I'm a really good putter. Like it's almost hard to believe. It's probably because of the miniature golf. I'm good at reading the green. I've had the same punter, the putter, Billy Brew. No, it's probably a ping. But other than that, golf is just too difficult. Yeah, it is. It is very difficult. But I do enjoy playing. I just haven't in a while. But listen, what I enjoy doing more than playing it is winning. Just like you hitting those 3-pointers, right? And while we might have retired off the field a long time ago, we're still winning now because we both use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. Too good to be true?
You bet it is. I've seen a car sold for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. All right. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for the things you want and get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the app. That's what I did. That's what Adam did. It's much easier to use. Just go to the app. And by the way, when you register, enter the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right. When you register, you got the promo code ITB. You get a special offer that gives you some bonus free bids, and you can thank us when you start bringing home those really expensive things for a few bucks.
Tablets. Get the tablets there. You can get a brand new tablet, or you can get a used one that's fine.
Yep.
$5-10. Now, obviously, when people see this stuff, you're in an auction, so you can't. But they do go for that. I study that stuff. When I downloaded the app, I wanted to see what kind of stuff is on there. There's some sporting goods. There's all sorts of stuff there, and the app is easy. App is easy to use. Really.
No doubt about it. So go ahead and download it and use that promo code ITB. All right, let's get into Eric Wilson. He is a linebacker from the Vikings. This is sort of Anthony Harris-ish in more than one way, Adam, right? Anthony Harris was, for a while, the backup to two really good stars or very good safeties with Harrison Smith and Andrew Sandejo. I mean, they went to the championship game and lost to the Eagles with that pairing. Same way, Wilson here has been behind on the depth chart, Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, two of the league's best linebackers. But who was it that got hurt last year? Was it Kendricks?
Kendricks did, he had a calf injury, yeah.
Right, and so that gave Eric Wilson a chance to kind of get in there and show what he can do. So, again, a guy who took advantage of the opportunities, knows the scheme, can come in here. He is going to be – I know there's some confusion about this, and we'll clarify this. It's my understanding he's going to be middle linebacker.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Eagles are going to be 65 to 70% nickel.
Correct. So
who plays in base doesn't matter. It's
right.
And quite frankly, if T.J. Edwards is on the team to protect Wilson, it's 230, 235, 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
Fine, put Edwards in. But teams do not look at who's in base as a starter. They look at who plays the most snaps.
Correct.
That's how you evaluate in the National Football League. Well, barring a shock, Wilson will be a starting nickel linebacker because the Eagles will be a nickel team. So
yes,
whoever is on the field 70% of the plays, they're starting. That's just the way you look at it.
You also remember that Gannon, we have been told, is going to implement the Zimmer scheme, which is based a lot of cover two, a lot of Tampa two, a lot of inverted Tampa two. There's a lot of cover three also, which has a cover two look, but becomes cover three when your linebacker, your middle linebacker in that style of defense takes the deep middle and then the safeties branch out. So that's the Eric Wilson type of role that I imagine, that even though some people still think of the 80s middle linebacker, big hulking guy, stop the run. But in that Tampa 2, the legendary Tampa 2 that the Bucs played, it was Derek Brooks on the strong side, who was the tackler. That's probably going to be your Alex Singleton role.
He was actually the weak side linebacker.
I'm sorry, the weak side. Yeah. He was but I meant outside linebacker was what I really meant.
And by the way, in Zimmer's defense, it was explained to me the strong side and weak side are actually the exact opposite. Like you would, it's not quite what you would think. They've had a lot of success with their linebackers. Obviously, we talked about Kendricks, who's really good. He's a star that not a lot of people know about unless you follow the league a lot, or you follow the Vikings. Obviously, Michael's younger brother, terrific player. So yeah, then the question is, okay, so we know that Wilson will line up as one of their nickel linebackers. That's really going to be their defense. They're going to be a nickel team. Who's the other linebacker? Well, right now it's Alex Singleton, but you have a new staff, and this is the thing we don't know because we're only in April.
Right. We
don't know how the new staff feels about certain players. We know that they want for their scheme, but we don't know once they get to. We think they're going to have OTAs in May or June. We just don't know yet when it's going to be. Then, of course, the veterans show up? We don't know that. Once you get to training camp, when it really matters, and they'll have had the draft, and we assume they're going to draft one or two linebackers. What's that mix going to look like? So we have to look at that, and then who will be their dime linebacker, which means one linebacker. I would guess Wilson, but we don't know yet because they're not done with that position.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be it's hard. I think we said this last pod. It's hard to sit here and give you the linebacker depth chart before the draft because it's a position I expect them to really look at. And we got a comment on the YouTube channel recently that said, but they drafted 2 linebackers last year. Why do they have to invest more? And the reality is, this is not just with linebacker. I think everybody should understand that when you draft a guy in the 6th round, like Sean Bradley, your expectation is you hope he makes the team. If he does make the team, he's probably a special teamer, which is what Sean Bradley starts out. But you always envision that person as a backup, and you hope the best case scenario is he becomes a starter, like Jason Kelsey, 6th round, great best case scenario, Pro Bowler, All Pro. But 90% of your 6th round picks either don't make the team or are only special teamers. So the Eagles cannot say, oh, we drafted Sean Bradley last year in the 6th round along with Davian Taylor in the 3rd round, so we don't really need more linebackers. No, they need starting linebackers. They need good linebackers.
Look, I get it. We're still at the undervalued belief still internally that they're not going to invest in linebackers.
Right.
It's not going to happen. They're not spending $8 to $10 million per year. Eric Wilson's deal is low. There's upside to it to get up to $3.5 million or $4 million, whatever it is. But he's here because he knows the scheme, and the Eagles smartly did not try to sign him the first week or second week of free agency. They let time go by. You start out for a guy like him at $5 or $6 million a year. You get 5 weeks in, now you're much lower, and that worked out for them. And I thought to be honest with you, I thought he was going to sign 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I stopped asking because I was like, man, how's he still out here? I thought he'd be a priority to bring in, and the Eagles smartly play the market, and they let the numbers go down, money go down.
Right. And as we always say, the market kind of dictates how the league views you. I mean, he's on the Eagles, he's a starting linebacker. For another team, he might be just a
he might be scheme specific, right? And he might be scheme specific just in a nickel linebacker. Of course, the whole league runs nickel, and some teams run 50%. Majority of the league is 65 or 70%.
Right.
Some are a heavy dime. It depends on your scheme. But Wilson's going to have a major role now, and we just talked about Sean Bradley, barring anything's unforeseen, will be a 6th linebacker if they have 6, and he'll only play on special teams. I don't see him playing any meaningful snaps on defense at all.
No. In fact, what you can say now is Singleton will be on the 53. Eric Wilson will be on the 53. Davion Taylor, I think he's going to have to be on the 53. They're not going to give up after 1 year. Sure. I don't know how much better he's going to be, but he's going to be on the 53. That's 3 right there. If they draft any linebacker in the first 3 rounds, that guy is going to be on the team. So that's 4 right there. I think so this is a good discussion. Does TJ Edwards no longer fit this defense? I'm not sure he does. Although if Singleton,
when you're playing base, I understand base is only going to be like 30%, roughly in that area.
Right.
Especially when you go to if short yardage, goal line, or a heavy run team, maybe you want Edwards to play more than he normally would. I mean, that's what he's good with.
See, ideally, if Davion Taylor had played a little bit as a rookie, he'd be able to step in by now to that Eric Wilson role, and it would be Davion and it would be Alex Singleton, and you'd probably have TJ there to be a backup. Or
I think I would argue though one thing. I think Wilson would be here no matter what because of he's signed here because of Gannon, because of the scheme. Now
that's a good point.
But
he might have been your 3rd linebacker. He might have been your sub package guy if Davion Taylor and Alex Singleton were your kind of.
But it's not even on the radar. Because here's the question with Davion Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
We know he can run. He would fit nickel or dime. The upside for him would be, and I don't think it happens this season. And again, man, we don't even know if we're going to have an off season or what the off season is going to look like.
Right.
But can he at least get on the field this season? Like, I know he played just a smattering of snaps, but can he get in occasionally in nickel to give Wilson a breather?
Right.
Can the coaches, this new staff, feel confident? I don't know how they feel about him. They're inheriting this player, so they don't. I'm sure they scouted him last year for the draft, which they could refer to that to their scouting reports. But you've got this Nick Rollis, this 26-year-old linebacker coach. He's responsible for developing them. This is the first time he's run a room. This is a big chore for that coach, and you've got some players who need to be developed.
Yeah. Taylor's a kid who could absolutely get totally lost by the pandemic, unfortunately, because As it looks like right now, the players are pushing for virtual OTAs. Don't
especially
want
with the veterans.
Yeah. And that's really tough on guys in year 1 and year 2 to not be on the field as much. Is it the case that they're not on the field at all, that they want everything to be virtual?
Well, the NFLPA believes that the veterans don't need to be there.
Correct.
And I don't think to be honest with you, I don't disagree with this. It's been out there for a couple of years now. They don't think they need to go to especially older players don't think they need to go. But my only issue is when you're trying to learn a new scheme, I feel bad for the new coaches because they're not getting these guys on the field.
Definitely.
And you make a good point about Taylor, Davion Taylor, 3rd rounder who was overdrafted, needs any meaningful time he can get on the field in OTAs, and even if it's in June. Even if it's just the mandatory camp, right, that they have. Great. You get 3 to 5 days worth of practice time just getting on the field. You bank that. You go watch the practice tape, and you get into training camp in late July, although they get a week ahead because they're new staff, but nevertheless.
Right.
Anything he could get on the field would help.
Definitely. I agree with you. Hopefully that they'll be able to work it out because the guy needs a lot of training. All right. Speaking of, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. Did we mention last podcast? Oh yeah, we did already. That Ken Flagioli and
Flagioli, yeah, he's
and Jim Schwartz have resurfaced with different.
Yeah. So Schwartz, talking to Titan source, he knew guys on the Titan staff. He lives in Nashville.
Right.
Yeah, I just think, look, Jim I understand this is not the scheme that they run a 34. It's not the scheme that he's taught and he learned under. The wide 9 he learned from Jim Washburn when they were with the Titans together. It's funny kind of that he's back, but running a different scheme. But he'll be a good resource for Shane Bowen, their first-year D coordinator, who was with Vrabel and with the Texans, and he was sort of the de facto coordinator. But now they'll get Jim as a resource. That's a smart move. And Flagioli wanted out. That's why he left. He didn't want to wait around. Once Doug Peterson was fired, he didn't want to wait around. And no one was sure. I was just talking to people with the Eagles about him back when this happened. They weren't sure if he's going to retire or not. He just, he wanted out. Okay. And now they've got a guy think about this. The new linebackers coach is more than half his age.
Yeah. It's kind of scary. Yeah. I mean, you may have gone from one extreme to another.
Flagioli must be around 60.
Yeah. Flagioli may have his flaws that we've detailed as far as his love for playing Nate Gary, but you're walking into the terrain here with a 26-year-old linebacker coach where you have no. I can at least say that Ken Flagioli has been an experienced coach in the league for decades and has held every single defensive post. With Nick Rallis, you just got to cross your fingers and hope that he winds up being a really good teacher at that position.
It's on Gannon. It's on Gannon. It's on the D coordinator. He brought him in. It was his idea to help teach the Viking system. And that's fine. I know I'm not saying this is the case, but I could give you examples of, I know offensive defensive coordinators who've brought in younger coaches that they want to develop. And what happens is they wind up overseeing that position with that guy. Right. That may happen here. I don't know. Remember, they're not a lot of assistant position coaches on the staff, which is what we had heard would be the case. Aren't very many.
Correct.
So maybe Gannon helps out. I know he's coached D-backs, but he knows his defense. He knows what's got to happen. We'll see. It's look, it's a training camp storyline. This Nick Rallis guy, this is can he develop these linebackers? Can they be better than they have been? And we know how bad it's been for the linebacker group over the years.
Yes, sir. All right. So altogether, that's 4 guys that have experience with Jonathan Gannon when you count Wilson, Anthony Harris, the quarterback that they have, Craig James, right?
Yeah, it's really the Zimmer system.
That's Wilson, what I mean. The Zimmer system, right?
Harris, Marcus Epps, who was claimed off waivers, and Craig James, who was claimed off waivers.
Which one of these guys never actually played under Gannon?
It's a good question.
Harris did. I think Wilson did, right?
Yep.
Epps was with the Vikings, I want to say 3 years ago. So he may have, I forget how long Gannon was with Indianapolis for, a couple of years. So, okay. But in that scheme, no doubt about it.
I think 18, 19, 20 for Gannon in Indy. But nevertheless, it's all about the scheme and 2 guys he's familiar with. For sure, Wilson and Harris are going to have significant roles.
Right.
Epps and Craig James had a really good training camp. the way I understand it, he wasn't just thought of as a special teams guy when he made it. They thought he could be a fourth corner, and he started to get some playing time, and then he got hurt, I think.
Yeah, Epps or James?
James
got hurt. He got hurt like twice during the season.
Yeah.
Everybody got hurt twice during the season. Everybody got hurt at least twice.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yep.
All right, let's transition over to the quarterbacks. First, I want to tell everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of the Philly pro sports teams. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. They do a great job. They got podcasts as well. Check them out, phlsportsnation.com. See them on Twitter at phlsportsnation. And we'll pause one moment for a word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, if you stop in and see the guys at Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them that Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. All right, we want to talk about quarterbacks, not first-round quarterbacks, because it doesn't seem like the Eagles are in that business, but the importance of drafting developmental quarterbacks in the later rounds. This should not be a controversial subject, Adam. Teams do this all the time. The Eagles used to do it all the time, and it would benefit them, right? Especially under Andy Reid. Get a quarterback. Winds up being good enough to make the team. Then maybe a year or 2 or 3 later, he's your backup quarterback, very cost controlled, right? Has to get in, plays well. You can trade him, or at very least you keep him and you have a good backup quarterback. So, I think that's why we have to talk about the importance of doing. It's not a wasted pick. It's not a bad idea to always draft developmental quarterbacks on day 2 or day 3, really.
Yeah, I made a mistake in 2012 saying, why did Washington draft Kirk Cousins while he spent a first-round pick? Robert Griffin III. Little did I know how smart that move was.
Yeah, how about it?
I learned a valuable lesson. It's like pitching in baseball. You can't have enough pitchers. You can't have enough developmental quarterbacks.
Right.
There was the Ron Wolf rule. He always would say, "Oh, we should draft a quarterback every year." It was kind of more like every other year, but nevertheless,
yeah.
List of Mark Brunell, Matt Hasselbeck. List goes on and on and on. So I like the idea. Absolutely. Look, it didn't work with Clayton Thorson, a 5th rounder. Okay. Doesn't mean you stop because you missed on that. That's not the way it works, folks.
Right.
Keep on doing it. You just get it right. That's all.
It did work with AJ Feely. It did work with Nick Foles. I mean, these guys, started their careers off, made the team, became backups, and then, in varying degrees of success.
And you know what's interesting about Nick Foles? Remember, that was the Russell Wilson draft. That, the way I understand it, talking to 2 people in the room that year, they were so mad and upset they didn't get Russell Wilson. Andy had personnel control then, so the day he was fired. So we're taking the quarterback. And Nick Foles did not have a 3rd-round grade. I don't remember. He might have had a 5th. I don't remember. This is going back, my goodness gracious, nearly 10 years. But I just know that a couple of people said that they were kind of surprised. They were like, well, Andy really wants us to take quarterback, but Nick Foles is not the guy they had in mind. I don't remember what their draft board looked like, but.
Well, funny how things happen, right?
Yeah. And Nick, here's the funny thing. Nick had an awful Senior Bowl week. Awful.
That doesn't surprise me. He's so streaky.
Well, yes, but that year, it's a way I remember asking, because I was curious, why in the world are they drafting this Nick Foles guy, this tall, goofy-looking dude?
Uh-huh.
And what happened was they changed his footwork a little bit. I don't remember who coached him that week in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was there looking, and I'm like, man, he don't look good at all. And this happens a lot. They mess with your footwork sometimes, and he wasn't comfortable. And I remember asking Andy what his thoughts were. I was like, man, coach, where were you on this guy? He's like, oh, this guy's way more athletic than he's been given credit for. Don't forget he was a basketball player. I'm like, all right. Fine.
Yeah, there you go. And listen, he always had an NFL arm. The arm was never a question. It's a great arm. Right?
It was a nice ball, very catchable.
Does. And he took abuse behind that Arizona offensive line his last year.
Right.
I mean, Chip Kelly used to talk about the time he was facing him, and Nick was throwing passes sideways because he was like Mahomes in the Super Bowl, basically throwing the ball up while he was being half sacked all the time. So I mean, it works out. So it's a good philosophy. Remember what the Eagles have told you, right? They no longer want to be the team after having to do that a couple of years back, where you're paying your backup. Chase Daniel $7 million, Nick Foles was $11 million. It's too much money for them to pay a backup quarterback. But they have also said that's an important position, so you want to draft and develop.
You know what? How much?
I believe that's why you do it mid to late round, not second round. But that was their philosophy on that. But the philosophy, I believe, is true about having as many, as you said, almost like having as many pitchers as you can have in baseball.
Take a guess how much they're paying combined, Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco in cash this season.
In cash? Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably less than $3 million, right?
No, not that cheap. Close though.
Four?
About 4.4 million between.
Okay.
The two.
What's Joe getting in cash this year?
3.5 in
Oh,
cash.
that's right. I'm thinking of okay.
And Jalen Hurts is under $1 million. It's like nine. It's like 9 and change. It's 900,000 and change. It's just that is true. As much as I bristled when you and I were told the reasons why they drafted Hurts, because my thing was I was brought up in this business that you only draft starters. Like you don't draft someone in the second round, they're not a starter. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, I was like yelled at when I said what I said on our show. I was like, yeah, I said, listen, this makes no sense. Well, why would this team draft a guy in the second round when their starter just signed an extension 9 months ago? It makes 0 sense.
Yes.
And it was based on partially what you said. They didn't want to invest, that kind of money. And, in the end, look, the bottom line is, when you look at the money, okay, they're not investing a lot of money at quarterback, right. but you gotta have quarterbacks. Yes. Number one, they only have 2 on the roster.
They only have 2. Correct.
They don't need to sign another veteran. Why would you do that?
No, that would be a waste. No, you got to sign it. You got to draft a guy and, hope he makes the team, run your scout team for a little bit. Maybe he's got athleticism so he can help you with those athletic quarterbacks on the scout team. So there's a lot of good reasons for it. Let's talk about some prospects before we get out of here. Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask their names come up a lot. Trask, I don't know. I kind of get a weird vibe on. He might go as early as late round 2, but maybe more likely round 3.
3, yeah. I've talked to, gosh, I don't even know how many of quarterback coaches and coordinators and guys from the offensive side of the ball graded his college tape. I mean, he could go, as you said, late second round. I mean, it's a quarterback position. Guys get overdrafted all the time. I think he's going to go in the 3rd. He's not as good as I thought he was, because just watching him on television tape last year when I would tape Florida games looked pretty good to me, but it wasn't coaching tape. And boy, it's amazing. It's kind of like high-speed internet. When you're on dial-up to me was TV tape. All 22 is high-speed internet, man. It's
yes, it is.
It's so different. I cannot tell you, but he just doesn't have a great arm. It's above average, not great. He has good size, but not a very good athlete. Doesn't move very well. Today's coaches, man, they want guys who can move. So
you would think
I'm very interested. I'm sorry.
So you would think the Eagles have as much information on Kyle Trask as anyone,
obviously,
because their quarterbacks coach was his offensive coordinator all last year.
Wouldn't it be interesting? And okay, so that was my other point I was going to bring up. So let's say Trask becomes their guy. They draft him, let's say, the 4th round.
Okay.
You've got Flacco here. Obviously, he's going to be a 3rd-string quarterback. You do wonder, okay, because obviously Johnson has a relationship with Hurts, goes back for over a decade. Isn't that interesting? Can you imagine if they draft Trask, who he coached, and Hurts, who he's known as a kid?
Yeah. And then everybody can say, how can you hurt Jalen Hurts' feelings by drafting the guy that was just coached by his same.
I brought it up. Wouldn't be crazy,
coach, right? I'm sure that would be a fun storyline.
Yep.
We'll see. Trask, there's Kellen Mond from Texas.
That's my guy. That is.
I like him
every
too.
year. I pick like a mid-round guy. He should go 3rd or 4th round now. Could he go higher? Only takes one team. So let's just talk in generalities here, because this is what we have. He's got a lot of ability. He's got a good arm. He does have the issue where he holds the carriage point is way too high. I remember asking Mike McCarthy, the then Packers head coach, when was Tebow drafted? 09, 10, whenever it was.
Yeah, I forget what year.
I said to him at the combine when we the media briefing, I said, hey, what would you do if you got Tebow? He said, listen, I've never had anyone other than Aaron Rodgers. When I coached Aaron in 06, I did one thing. Aaron held it up here. I lower it to here. Because you're going to get knocked out of your hand. No, I'm sorry. It was here, and he moved it. Okay. So he said the carriage point was poor. He had to change it. The Eagles did this with Wentz, going into second year,
right?
Where the process, they wanted to shorten up the process, so they moved it from here to here, and And, Wentz was not real happy. He didn't really want to do it because he'd done
Shocker.
it. But you know what? If you've done something your whole life and you change it, that's radical. Like
I guess, yeah.
It's something to get used to. And then he gave in, and obviously he was incredible.
Yeah.
Then until his injury. But I'll be, it's funny. I'll be interested. Speaking of Wentz, I'll be very interested. I hope to get to their camp. See what they do with his mechanics because they were so bad last season.
Mm-hmm.
Very interested to see what Frank Reich and Scott Milinovich do with his mechanics. Can they get him back?
Sure. All right, so Kellen Mond is a guy you and I like. He's kind of considered that third, fourth round type. I wonder if some of these guys we are talking about will go higher because teams kind of copycat the Eagles and say, oh, if I want, now that other teams are doing this, drafting, third, fourth round guys in the second round, we should do the same. And the NFL's a copycat league. And
this
just on fear, not because the Eagles did it, but just like the fear that, I want Kellen Mond in the third round.
But I
got to worry about teams doing what the Eagles did now,
Sure. I'm just, we'll maybe we'll find out for the draft who they like at those mid-round guys. But Mond is just a guy that, and I understand his carriage point, it's got to be moved. I get it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm kind of showing you where he holds the ball.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why he's developmental.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. These are the guys you draft in the middle rounds. He's not going to dress for any games unless somebody gets hurt.
Right.
And then, again, hopefully we have an offseason, for goodness sake.
We shall see about that. Another guy, Davis Mills from Stanford.
Yeah.
Was it Greg Cosell who told us that he was once the top-rated quarterback coming out of the Atlanta area?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he is. I know some guys who went out to his pro day. He is a drop back, tall quarterback, 6'3.5", got a lot of tools. Mon is the same way. Mid-round draft picks they're seen a certain way. There's flaws there. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's why they're not a first or second round picks.
Right.
But this is a guy that is a drop back passer. He's not an athlete, but he could get out of his own way. He's a guy that teams are intrigued with. But again, as you said, wherever he goes, no one's expected to put him on the field on day one. He probably won't dress this season unless somebody gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
These are the type of guys you should be targeting if you're the Eagles, because you can't have enough quarterbacks. Flacco's probably only going to be here 1 year. Their whole goal had been with Hurts, had the Wentz stuff not gone sideways, is to develop Hurts not only as his backup, but if he could, because we know Wentz's injury history, if he could have got, they felt like he could. I'm using a number here. Who knows how many games Wentz would have missed?
Mm-hmm.
But you figure Wentz, based on his injury history, eventually is going to get hurt. Though he stayed pretty healthy 2 seasons ago, as we know, until he got cheap shotted by Clowney. Maybe 4 or 5 starts over 3 years. That's just to get good tape going. Well, okay. Let's move this forward here. Hurts is now as a starter, barring something unforeseen, a trade, obviously, for a veteran quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy that they draft could be in year 2 the backup if they do that.
Sure. I think that makes philosophical sense to me. Ian Book, another guy in Notre Dame, probably a little bit even more so raw than some of the guys we talked about. Needs a lot of work.
Yep.
But get him into camp. Got the right people.
He's another late rounder, guys like.
Very athletic.
Yep. Rounds 5 through 7.
Mm-hmm.
Not real big, just about 6'1". Notre Dame program. They're gonna draft somebody. We just, Clayton Thorson, quite frankly, I never heard of him until about a week before the draft.
Oh, come on. You never heard of I heard.
No,
I'm a Big Ten guy, but
no, but I didn't know, but I didn't see it. I never watched him play. I found out about him a week before the draft.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this guy's going to go somewhere that he actually dropped farther than I thought he would, because he had a good arm.
Yeah, he was a tough kid at Northwestern. I enjoyed watching him play.
And he came back from an ACL, unfortunately.
Yeah, these guys never have great weapons at Northwestern around him. Yeah. So they're always.
He looked like I'll say this much: his tape before he tore his ACL, he looked like he had a chance to be a player. And then he gets here, it didn't work. I don't know. At one point, like he went from, in fact, we were doing our show then, and we had heard that he got off to a really good start, and then something happened.
Yeah, it just didn't pan out for him.
Yes, in the end.
And then he was a Cowboy, right? Didn't he go to the Cowboys?
Yeah,
right?
And Peterson claimed that they offered him a chance to come to the practice squad here.
Right.
And he said no.
I'm going to go to Dallas. He's like that Dak guy. I guess. So it's kind of funny. All right. Well, yeah, no, to sum it up, I do think the Eagles will look into the mid to late round quarterback in one of their picks. And as we get closer, maybe we'll get a better idea of who they might have their eyes on. And that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. You can check his work out on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads. Check him out on Twitter and his new Twitter account @Broads Media. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.